Welcome to the Genius Alchemist podcast. I'm your host, Sarah McBride, and in today's episode, I will be talking about one of my favourite topics, which is magic. Now, this has been inspired by a recent message that I received on Instagram, which asked me, was I a witch? And they thought witches were made up. Now, it's something I decided to explore and talk about more deeply because there's lots of misconstrued and misunderstood ideas around what magic is and around the craft of magic. So, what I'd like to do is talk about magic from my perception and some of the misconceptions around what it actually is and how actually magic is real. And magic is not a made-up concept. So, the history of magic is this really rich tapestry, and it spans across various civilizations, various cultures, and it does encompass a really wide range of beliefs, traditions, and various practices. And it's actually ancient practices rather than what people think of New Age. This is ancient. And how we can bring that into today's world and get back to our roots culturally and get back to our roots of our ancestors. So there's this kind of concept in today's world that magic is card tricks. They associate it with a magician, but a magician in a new sense rather than the ancient sense. So card tricks, pulling a rabbit out of a hat, and usually accompanied by the words abracadabra. And something I was teaching on a retreat quite recently about what this actually means, and I'm in touch with ancient Aramaic language and also etymology from today's perspective in today's language. And, that was where I was rooted in my background in English and the history of the English language. But obviously words across different cultures and traditions mean different things. But for me, it was always studying English and then also getting into more cultural differences and languages such as Aramaic. And abracadabra means in Aramaic, I will create as has been spoken. So what does that say? Because even when we talk about spells, people have a preconceived idea of what a spell is, but actually a spell relates to spelling. So what is spelling? It's words. So words, speak. This is casting spells. So you and I are casting spells in every day. So that is also magic, and, programming, illusions. It's all magic, but it's understanding that to a deeper level. However, most people, if they think about magic, they either have the more newer concept of the magician in a, where it's almost being played down. It's being contorted. Oh, this is what a magician does, and it's illusion. Or they will have connotations of ceremony, divination, spellcasting. And if we actually think about magic, it's been a part of our culture for millennia. Ancient civilizations such as Egyptians, Greeks, Babylonians, Sumerians all practiced some sort of magic. And throughout history, it's also been intertwined with spirituality, even religion. And even many cultures of practitioners of magic were revered as, they were revered as high priestesses or priests, shamans, and almost acting as a bridge from the spiritual world and the physical world. And that's what a lot of people, when they think about magic, will see and think about out-of-body experience, going into deep journeys, even thinking about how we use magic ritual and incantations to communicate with the invisible world. However, this changed. So if we think about the Middle Ages, where magic then become really associated with witchcraft and sorcery, hence my question on Instagram, am I a witch? Because I was talking about magic, I was showing some of the work that I did on the retreat. And if we think about this in the Middle Ages, and it was almost like a tool to become empowered. So magic became a tool for many to become empowered and heal the sick, protect from evil, whatever that looks like. And using magical powers then become associated with sorcery, witchcraft, and this led to persecution and witch hunts in Europe predominantly, but all over the world. And this is where the witch trials happened, and our ancestors were murdered, they were killed because they were tapping into their power. And many women, in fact, were murdered for stepping into their power and for using their healing powers, for using their psychic abilities, for using spells, whatever that looks like. And because of that, even now, that trauma still continues down the lineage where people are afraid to use the terms magic or witch and step fully into the power. But this is where I want to make a real distinct kind of, a distinction between who's using magic, who isn't. You don't have to be a sorcerer or a witch to use magic, because every person is using magic every single day. When you're using affirmations, it's an incantation about yourself. You are co-creating with the divine. You're co-creating with your subconscious, your higher self, to create a new reality for yourself. That's magic. When you affirm something to someone else, you're casting spells upon that person. So following on from my last episode, the podcast where I talk about psychic attack, and how when we speak out loud the things that we may not be necessarily good for another, whether it's envy, jealousy, whatever that looks like, it can be a form of psychic attack. That's magic. Psychic attack is magic. So it's understanding the actual terminology of magic, what it means, and how it can look in everyday life rather than associating it with a ritual. Because actually, when we look at rituals, which is a big part of magic and ceremony, the ritual tools that we use and the objects that we use only contain and possess a form of magic because of the intention and the words that we speak into that object. So when we are doing incantations and putting our energy into that object and infusing that ritual tool, then that's what gives it the power. So if we look at it in that way, everything comes back to ourself. And if everything comes back to ourself, then knowing that we have the power within us to create magic, knowing that we are creating magic, so creating magic intentionally is what we should be working towards. If we want to help shift our destiny, create a better future for ourselves, So it's really important that we look at what magic's being created in our everyday life, because most people I know, or why people then want to work with me, is because they're not intentional in their life. Even if they think they're intentional, they're operating from shadow. Sometimes they need that pointing out. So they're not operating from the conscious mind. It's all the subconscious shadows, the parts of themselves that they've not worked through yet. The trauma, the chaos, the negative conditioning from childhood, from people around them, even things that come through from past lives. And then coupled with, we are being distracted with TV, radio, newspaper, social media. What we see, we're being conditioned. That is creating our magic. It's a form of magic. Even when propaganda, even when we are infiltrated with propaganda, for example, whether it's about COVID, whether it's about war, when we are being programmed and conditioned to think a certain way on a large scale, that's black magic being cast upon the planet. But people think black magic is sitting with voodoo dolls, but it's actually not. Black magic is not always sitting and casting spells, sitting voodoo dolls, hoodoo, whatever that looks like. It can actually be mass mind control of black magic. So it's important to first understand that magic is real, and the word is being contorted throughout history until we get to modern day and what magic means. So by understanding magic, understanding that we create as is being spoken. So whatever we condition ourselves to believe, and then we speak it out, and then that story is what shapes our reality. It's important to understand that that is magic. So we're living lives through magic. It's important to understand what magic we're casting upon ourselves. Is it good or is it bad? So understanding that we are powerful beyond measure, we're powerful beyond measure as humans. But most people live in a disempowered state, creating apathy, depression, anxiety, because they don't know themselves on a deep level. They don't understand themselves, what's within the psyche on a deeper level. So they allow external influences, such as the media, to determine how they should feel about themselves and others, and about the state of the planet. So when we become empowered, fully and truly empowered, and we learn to manage our emotional state, and we learn to look at what magic that we create for ourselves, then we can create daily rituals, creating ceremony, and understanding that we are the magic, and that life itself is a ritual. So everything that we do on a daily basis, from the first 10-15 minutes of the morning, what we consume, not just what we eat, but what the mind consumes, what state that we put ourselves in, what intentions are we setting for the day. Are we connected with nature? Because inherently humans should be more in balance with nature. So how do we connect with nature? What does that look like? Are we living in a concrete jungle where there's no nature around us and we don't spend time to connect to ground? To be more in flow, to be in flow with the seasons. What does that look like? Because again, witches, for example, will be associated with nature, but actually they learn to become in touch and in tune with the elements and to be in flow. And that within itself means we can create magic because we can disconnect. And when we're in a state of disconnect from being pushed with information, mind control, influenced externally, then we come back to our centre and our power. And that's something that nature does. So looking at your life, how it's set up, and how you're creating magic, how you're creating ritual, what tools do you choose to use to make your life more powerful and intentional about where you would like to go. Thinking about the unconscious contracts that we make with each other through the words that we speak. That's casting spells. Thinking about the spells that we cast upon ourselves. When we have time to reflect in nature, all this starts to come to the surface and the forefront. Otherwise, we're operating unconsciously, consistently. For me, word magic is the most potent, powerful magic that there is. And that's why in every culture across the world there's some sort of word magic, whether that's spells, where a witch, for example, would speak out loud a spell, incantations, prayers. Various religions use prayers. Spiritual people use affirmations. The point is, it doesn't matter what it is. It matters that it's a form of word magic, as you speak, as you write down. So how we can become intentional with the magic we use in our life by first accepting that magic is real and magic exists, and magic is woven through our daily life, and then controlling, manipulating our reality, bending our reality by becoming intentional. But again, one thing I always talk about is how this needs to be in accordance with God's will, or the divine will, meaning fate, meaning our soul's path, purpose, soul's plan. Whatever the soul's plan is for us, we need to come into balance and become in accordance and in alignment with that. And then we can manifest, create magic moving towards that. Because if we're off plan, we will know about it. And, that doesn't just come in the form of feeling down, depressed, but it can come in the form of external events happening around us to move us back into alignment and on track. So it's about following the signs and understanding the signs. Something that I covered in the last episode. So I'll leave you to ponder this. Where do you create your own magic in your life intentionally? If you don't, where can you start to create magic in your life intentionally? What forms of magic do you think are being cast upon you? Thinking about your friends, your family members, the words they speak, the stories that they affirm are true about you. And knowing that you can flip the script at any time, you can change the script, you can change your story. How empowered are you? Ask yourself those questions when you think about cultivating magic, because magic is not sitting and speaking a spell out loud and thinking that that's going to change your life. There's the magic of believing. That is the daily ritual, your intentions. What you put out comes back, so what you speak of others, the spells you cast upon others. And also how you can become more empowered. I'll be doing more episodes in the future around magic and what it means and how we can cultivate magic in our daily life. So thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in to the Genius Alchemist podcast. If this episode has ignited your curiosity or inspired you in some way, then I encourage you to subscribe and share with friends. For those that want to stay in the loop and be the first to know about future episodes, special offers and free resources, make sure to check out the link in the show notes. By joining my mailing list or reaching out through that link, you'll have exclusive access to all the latest updates and ways that you can connect with me. I look forward to sharing more inspiring stories with you all in future episodes.